You've been told that changing your life requires willpower, discipline, effort, grit, that you need to force yourself into new habits, push through resistance, and somehow muscle your way into a better version of yourself. But what if I told you that's the exact reason you keep failing? Let me ask you something. How many times have you known exactly what you needed to do? Eat better, stop reacting, be more present, and yet found yourself doing the complete opposite? You understand the theory, you've read the books, you've tried the methods, but nothing sticks. And the harder you try, the faster you fall back into the same patterns. Here's what nobody tells you. The problem isn't you. It's not that you lack willpower or that you're broken or that change is impossible for someone like you. The problem is that you're trying to change from the conscious mind, the analytical, thinking, effortful part of you that represents only 5% of who you are. The other 95%, that's running on autopilot. That's your subconscious mind, the operating system beneath your awareness. And here's the kicker. You can't reprogram an operating system by thinking harder about it. Most people spend their entire lives trying to change their thoughts. They analyze why they react the way they do, they dissect their childhood, they journal and affirm and set intentions, and yet the same emotional patterns show up. The same habits return. The same reality keeps recreating itself. Why? Because analysis keeps you in the problem. It keeps you in the same brainwave state that created the problem in the first place. It's like trying to fix a computer while it's still running the buggy software. You're working within the constraints of the very thing you're trying to change. So here's my question for you. What if the reason you haven't changed isn't because you're not trying hard enough, but because you're trying in the wrong state of mind? Let me tell you something most people never hear. There's a specific brainwave state where change becomes effortless, where the subconscious mind opens like a door, where you can step beyond the analytical loop and actually rewire the neural patterns that have been running your life. It's called the observer state, and when you learn to access it, when your brain shifts into what we call coherence, everything changes. Not because you're forcing it, but because you finally dropped into the layer of mind where transformation actually happens. But here's where it gets interesting. Most people meditate wrong. They sit down, close their eyes, and immediately start analyzing their thoughts, judging whether they're doing it right, wondering if it's working. That's not meditation. That's mental noise disguised as practice. And it keeps you locked in the same frequency you're trying to escape. The monks know this. The neuroscientists know this. And now, you're about to know this too. Because in the next 30 minutes, I'm going to show you exactly how your brain creates your reality. Why most people fail at change and what it really takes to access the observer mind. The state where coherence isn't just possible, it's inevitable. Not because it's complicated, but because it's been hidden in plain sight. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. Ready? Let's go deeper. Here's the thing most people don't understand. Your brain operates in different frequencies, and each frequency determines whether you're living in survival mode or creation mode. Let me break this down. Right now, as you're listening to this, your brain is producing electrical activity. Scientists measure this in brainwaves, and there are 4 main states you need to know about. Beta, that's the fastest brainwave. It's the state you're in when you're thinking, analyzing, worrying, planning. It's the state of stress, of reaction, of survival. When you're in beta, you're perceiving the world through the lens of past trauma and future fear. You're not present. You're scattered across time, replaying old stories and rehearsing worst-case scenarios. And here's the problem. Most people live their entire lives in beta. They wake up in it. They work in it. They fall asleep in it. Their nervous system is locked in fight or flight mode, pumping stress hormones into their bloodstream, telling their body that danger is near. But danger isn't near. The deadline is near. The argument is near. The fear of not having enough time, enough money, enough love, that's what's near. And your brain can't tell the difference between a real threat and a perceived one. So it keeps you in beta, keeps you alert, keeps you ready to react. Now let's talk about alpha. Alpha is the bridge. It's the state where your conscious mind starts to relax and the door to your subconscious begins to crack open. You're still aware, but you're no longer gripping the steering wheel with white knuckles. You're in the flow. Athletes call this the zone. Artists call it inspiration, and it's the first step toward real change. But most people never drop into alpha, not for more than a few seconds, because the moment they start to relax, the analytical mind pulls them back. Am I doing this right? Is this working? I should be feeling something by now. And just like that, you're back in beta, back in the loop. Then there's theta. This is the magic state. This is where the subconscious mind fully opens. It's the state you're in right before you fall asleep and right when you wake up. It's the state where children live until they're about 7 years old, which is why they absorb everything, believe everything, and don't question the reality they're being programmed into. In theta, your body is asleep, but your mind is awake. The analytical mind, the gatekeeper, is offline. And suddenly you have access. You can go into the operating system. You can change the programs. You can rewrite the beliefs, the habits, the emotional reactions that have been running on autopilot for decades. But here's where most people get stuck. They think meditation is about stopping their thoughts. So they sit there, trying to force their mind into silence, and when thoughts keep coming, they think they're failing. But that's not meditation. That's mental warfare. And you can't fight your way into theta. The secret, you don't stop thinking, you stop analyzing. There's a difference. Awareness isn't analysis. Awareness is simply noticing, without judgment, without commentary, without trying to fix anything. It's the difference between watching clouds pass in the sky and grabbing each one to examine it. When you analyze, you stay in beta. You stay in the problem. You stay in the part of the mind that's designed to keep you safe by keeping you the same. But when you observe, when you become aware without getting hooked, your brainwaves slow down, the noise quiets, and the door opens. So here's my question for you. How much of your meditation practice has actually been awareness, and how much has been analysis disguised as self-reflection? Because if you've been sitting there thinking about your problems, reviewing your day, mentally planning your future, you haven't been meditating, you've been rehearsing. And rehearsal doesn't change anything, it just reinforces the script. Are you starting to see why you felt stuck? It's not because you're not trying. It's because you've been trying from the wrong layer of mind. You've been trying to change the 95% from the 5%. And that's like trying to renovate your house while standing in the attic. Let's go deeper. Now let me show you something most people never learn. The difference between awareness and analysis isn't just semantic, it's neurological. When you analyze, you activate the neocortex. That's the thinking brain. The part that loves to label, categorize, compare, judge. It's brilliant for solving problems in the external world. But when you turn it inward, it becomes a trap, because the neocortex doesn't have access to the subconscious. It's like trying to use a flashlight to see in a room that requires infrared. You're using the wrong tool for the job. Awareness, on the other hand, activates different brain regions. It lights up the prefrontal cortex, the area associated with presence, intention, and elevated emotion. And when you sustain awareness without getting hooked by thought, something radical happens. Your brainwaves shift. You move from beta into alpha, and if you go deep enough, into theta. And in theta, the analytical mind, the gatekeeper between your conscious and subconscious, goes offline. The door swings open, and suddenly you're no longer a prisoner of your past programming. You're free to install new software. But here's what no one tells you. You can't think your way into theta. You have to feel your way into it. Because the subconscious mind doesn't speak in words, it speaks in images, in sensations, in emotion. It doesn't respond to, I should be different. It responds to, I am different. Not as a concept, but as an embodied experience. Think about it like this. When you learn to ride a bike, you don't read a manual and suddenly know how to balance. You get on the bike, you fall, you get back on, and at some point your body learns. The knowledge moves from your head into your nervous system. You don't think about balancing anymore, you just do it. That's the difference between intellectual understanding and embodied knowing. One lives in the 5%, the other lives in the 95%. So when people say, I know what I need to do, but I can't do it, They're describing the gap between the conscious mind and the subconscious. They have the information, but they don't have the experience. And without the experience, the subconscious doesn't update. It keeps running the old program because that's the only program it knows. Now let's talk about how that program was installed in the first place. From the moment you were born until about age 7, you were living in theta. Your analytical mind hadn't developed yet, so everything you experienced, every interaction, every emotion, every belief your parents held went straight into your subconscious without a filter, without question, without resistance. If your parents were stressed about money, you absorbed that stress. If they believed the world was dangerous, you believed it too. If they showed love conditionally, you learned that love must be earned. And all of that programming became the operating system running beneath your conscious awareness. The problem is, most people spend their adult lives trying to override that programming with willpower, with positive thinking, with affirmations repeated from the conscious mind. But the conscious mind is only 5% of your processing power. The subconscious is 95%. So no matter how many times you tell yourself, I am abundant, if your subconscious believes there's never enough, guess which one wins? The subconscious, every time. Not because it's stronger, but because it's running on autopilot. And autopilot doesn't listen to conscious commands. It only responds to one thing: new experience. You have to show your subconscious a different reality. Not think it, not hope for it. Live it internally before it manifests externally. You have to feel the emotion of your future self so deeply, so consistently that your body starts to believe it's real. And when your body believes it, the subconscious updates. That's what meditation is really for, not to escape reality, but to go so deep into your inner world that you can rewrite the script, to access the layer of mind where change doesn't require effort, it requires coherence. And coherence? That's the secret nobody talks about. So here's my question for you. If you've been trying to change your thoughts without changing your state, how long are you willing to keep banging your head against the same wall? Because there's another way, and it starts with understanding what coherence really is. Let me show you. Coherence. Let me paint a picture for you. Imagine an orchestra, not a good one, a chaotic one. The violins are playing one tempo, the drums are playing another, the flutes are off key, the conductor has left the stage, and the sound? It's noise, cacophony, dissonance. You wouldn't call that music. You'd call that a disaster. That's what most people's brains look like on a scan when they're stressed, anxious, overwhelmed. Different regions firing out of sync, competing signals, no harmony, no rhythm, just noise. Now imagine that same orchestra, but this time, the conductor walks in, raises the baton, and suddenly every instrument locks into the same tempo, the same key, the same intention. The violins soar, the drums ground, the flutes weave through, and the sound? It's not just music, it's transcendent. That's coherence. That's what happens when your brain synchronizes, when the prefrontal cortex, the limbic system, the midbrain, all the different regions start firing in harmony. When your heart rhythm smooths out, when your breath deepens, when your nervous system shifts from fight or flight into rest and repair, and here's where it gets stunning. When your brain enters a state of coherence, your body knows what to do. It doesn't need instructions from your conscious mind. It begins to heal itself. It recalibrates. Systems that were out of balance, your cardiovascular system, your immune system, your digestive system, they all start functioning optimally, not because you're doing something, but because you're being something different. You're no longer running on stress hormones. You're no longer broadcasting the frequency of survival. You've shifted into creation mode. And in creation mode, the field responds. Now I know that sounds mystical, but let me ground this in science for a second. Dr. Joe Dispenza and his team have measured the brainwaves of thousands of meditators. And what they've found is this. When someone drops into coherence, their brain produces slow, rhythmic, powerful waves, alpha and theta patterns that look almost identical to deep, dreamless sleep. Except the person isn't asleep. They're awake, fully present. And in that state, they have access to the subconscious mind. The gatekeeper is gone. The door is open, and real change, not intellectual change, but cellular change, becomes possible. Let me tell you a story. A man named Jose came to one of Dispenza's workshops. He had 10 warts on his hand. He'd tried everything, medical treatments, creams, procedures, nothing worked. But during his first deep meditation, something shifted. He dropped into coherence. He forgot about his body. He forgot about time. He let go of needing the outcome. And in that state of pure presence, his brain reorganized itself. The next morning, he woke up, looked at his hand, and all 10 warts were gone, completely, as if they'd never been there. Now you might be thinking, that's impossible. That's a coincidence. And maybe 5 years ago, I would have said the same thing, but the research tells a different story. When your brain becomes coherent, it sends organized signals to every cell in your body. And when those cells receive coherent information, they function coherently. They repair, they regenerate, they return to their optimal blueprint. The body isn't broken, it's just been receiving incoherent signals. Stress, fear, worry, fight or flight. And when you change the signal, the body changes the response. That's not mysticism, that's biology. That's epigenetics. That's the observer effect playing out in real time. Because here's the thing. You are not a victim of your genes. You're not a victim of your past. You're not even a victim of your current circumstances. You are the observer. And the observer has the power to collapse the wave, to select a new possibility from the quantum field, to become someone else. But only if you can get out of your own way. Only if you can quiet the noise long enough to access the signal. Only if you can stop analyzing and start embodying. And that's what coherence does. It takes you out of survival and into creation, out of reaction and into response, out of the old self and into the new. So here's my question for you. What would happen if you stopped trying to think your way into a new life and started being your way into it? What if the version of you that you're trying to become isn't something you achieve, it's something you access? Let that land for a moment, because we're not done yet. There's one more layer, and it's the one most people miss. Shall we go deeper? Now here's where I need to be brutally honest with you. Because most people hear this and think, great, I'll just meditate and everything will change. And then they sit down, close their eyes, and wonder why nothing happens. Here's the truth. 95% of people who start meditating quit within the first few weeks. Not because meditation doesn't work, but because they're doing it wrong. They're meditating from the wrong state, at the wrong time, with the wrong intention. And then they wonder why their life looks exactly the same. So let me tell you where people fail. Because if you don't know the traps, you'll fall into them. And I don't want that for you. Trap number 1, meditating in beta. You sit down, close your eyes, and immediately your mind goes into overdrive. Am I doing this right? How long should I sit here? I have so much to do today. I wonder if this is even working. That's not meditation. That's mental commentary. And commentary keeps you in beta, keeps you in the analytical mind, keeps you on the surface. If you're thinking during meditation, you're not meditating. You're rehearsing thought, and rehearsal doesn't change the subconscious. It just reinforces the conscious loop. Trap number 2, meditating at the wrong time. Most people try to meditate in the middle of the day, right after work, during their lunch break, and their brain is still running at full speed. Cortisol is high, adrenaline is pumping, the nervous system is locked in survival mode. And they wonder why they can't drop into alpha, let alone theta. Here's what nobody tells you. There are 2 windows in your day when the subconscious mind is naturally more accessible. Right when you wake up, before your analytical mind fully activates. And right before you fall asleep, when your body is already in relaxation mode. Those are the golden hours. That's when the door is already cracked open. You're not forcing it, you're walking through. But most people meditate when it's hardest, when their brain is firing at beta, when their body is tense, when they're still carrying the stress of the day, and then they give up because it feels impossible. It's not impossible. It's just bad timing. Trap number 3, trying to get somewhere. This is the biggest one. People sit down with an agenda. I need to feel peace. I need to manifest money. I need to heal my body. And the moment you need something, you're in lack. You're in survival. You're in beta. The paradox is this: the moment you stop needing the outcome, the field can deliver it. Because need is a low-frequency emotion. It's the vibration of "I don't have," and the quantum field responds to who you're being, not what you're wanting. You have to meditate from the emotion of already having, not hoping, not wishing, not begging the universe, but embodying, feeling gratitude for the future before it happens, feeling wholeness even though the circumstances haven't changed yet. That's the shift. That's what coherence feels like. It's not striving, it's surrender. It's not grasping, it's allowing. And most people can't do that because their entire nervous system has been trained to grip, to control, to force. So they sit in meditation, white-knuckling their way toward enlightenment. And then they wonder why it feels like work. But here's the thing. It's not supposed to feel like work. When you drop into coherence, it feels like relief. Like finally letting go of a weight you didn't realize you were carrying. Like falling, but in the safest way possible. Like a feather drifting down, slow and gentle, into a space where effort doesn't exist. Dr. Dispenza calls it falling like a feather. Not crashing, not forcing, just softly descending into a deeper state. And when you land there, you don't have to do anything, you just have to be. And in that beingness, the transformation happens automatically. But most people never get there because the moment they start to let go, fear creeps in. And if I let go, I'll lose control. And they pull themselves back into thinking, back into analyzing, back into the same state they're trying to escape. And that's the trap. Control is the enemy of coherence. The more you try to control the process, the more you block the flow. The more you grip, the more you stay stuck. So here's my question for you. Are you willing to let go? Not tomorrow. Not when you feel ready. But right now, in this moment, are you willing to trust that if you stop controlling, something far greater than your analytical mind will take over? Because that's the shift, and it's the only way through. So let's bring this all together. Let's talk about the observer mind, because this is the final piece. The observer mind isn't something you develop. It's something you remember. It's the part of you that exists beyond thought, beyond emotion, beyond the identity you've been carrying around like a costume. It's the awareness that watches your thoughts without being your thoughts. The presence that feels your emotions without being overtaken by them. And when you access the observer mind, something radical happens. You stop identifying with the story. You stop believing that you are your past, your trauma, your mistakes, your conditioning. You realize deeply, cellularly, that you are the one watching all of it, and the watcher is free. The watcher doesn't need to change anything, because the watcher isn't in the problem. The watcher is in the space where all possibilities exist, and from that space you don't force change, you choose it. Not from desperation, not from lack, but from a place of calm, clear, coherent presence. This is what the Buddhists have been teaching for thousands of years. This is what the quantum physicists are now confirming. You are not the wave, you are the ocean. You are not the thought, you are the space in which thought arises. And when you know that, when you feel that, when you embody that, your entire reality reorganizes itself around the new frequency you're broadcasting. Let me tell you one more story. A woman named Monique came to one of these workshops. She'd been living in scarcity her entire life. Never enough money, never enough time, never enough support, and she carried that frequency in her body like a second skin. But during the meditation, she made a decision. She decided to stop being the person who lacked, not as a concept, but as an embodied experience. She dropped into coherence. She felt gratitude for abundance that hadn't shown up yet. She felt the emotion of financial freedom as if it were already real. And she stayed in that state, not for 5 minutes, but for hours, until her body believed it. 2 weeks later, she won the lottery. Not millions, but the exact amount she needed. $53,000, enough to pay off every debt, enough to start fresh. Enough to prove to herself that the field responds when you change your signal. Now you might be thinking, that's lucky, that's rare, that won't happen to me. And maybe you're right. Maybe you'll manifest something different. Maybe it won't be money. Maybe it'll be a relationship, or a career shift, or a healing in your body. But here's what I know. When you become coherent, the field rearranges itself to match your frequency. Not because you're special, but because that's how the quantum field works. It's not personal, it's physics. You change your state, you change your reality, not someday, now. And here's the most important part. You don't need years to do this. You don't need to be a monk or a mystic or someone who's been meditating since childhood. You just need to understand the mechanism. You need to know which brainwave state to access. You need to know when to meditate. You need to know the difference between awareness and analysis. And you need to practice, not perfectly, but consistently until coherence becomes your default. Because the monks, the ones they studied at the University of Wisconsin, they didn't meditate for hours every day and then return to stress. They learned to maintain coherence throughout their waking life. They didn't react to chaos, they observed it. They didn't absorb negativity, they remained neutral. They lived from the observer mind, and that's why their brains looked the way they did. Not because they were special, but because they practiced, and you can too. So here's my question for you. Not what you think, but what you feel. Are you ready to stop being the old you? Are you ready to access the observer mind? Are you ready to drop into coherence? Not someday, but tonight, the moment you close your eyes? Because if you are, everything changes. Not because I'm telling you it will, but because the science, the stories, the lived experience of thousands of people says it's possible. And if it's possible for them, it's possible for you. Now, if you've been with me from the beginning of this series, you've learned about the brainwave states, you've seen the science behind why most people fail, and today you've understood what coherence really means. In the next video, I'm going to give you the complete roadmap, the 4-week step-by-step process to access the observer mind and reprogram your subconscious. No theory, just practice, because knowing this without doing it changes nothing. So if you haven't watched the previous video yet, go back, and when you're ready for the practice, the next one is waiting. So here's what I want you to do. If you felt something shift while watching this, if something clicked, if something opened, drop one word in the comments that captures your energy right now. Just one word, because I want to know you're here. I want to know this landed, and I want to welcome you into this space, this conversation, this movement of people who are done waiting for permission to change. And if you're ready to go even deeper, hit that subscribe button, because this is just the beginning. Welcome to Coherence. Welcome to the observer mind. Welcome to the version of you that's been waiting. Let's create.